And welcome, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. Welcome to Hawk Talk Season 3 kicking off. And, of course, I have my buddy Rob. How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing? Excited
Good.
to be here. Thanks, man.
Of course. Obviously, we're coming into a new season. There's been tons of changes, top to bottom with this team. We see the end of the Pete Carroll era. Mike McDonald comes in. Obviously, we talked about this a fair amount towards the end of last season of Hawk Talk. But, we're starting to finally see this team taking shape. The defense has a ton of turnover. And I know that a lot of fans have had some issues. They weren't excited about it. But I think one of the things they forgot about was this was a bottom ranked defense. So although we had a lot of names, it wasn't necessarily performing. So, obviously some of these things we'll go into. And of course, we got the draft coming up. Lots to cover. But yeah, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, I know. I'm excited too. I think I'm actually excited for a lot of the changes that we had this year. I think we're going to be a good team. I think we're definitely still in the running for a wild card. I'm not going to say division leader, but definitely wild card this year. So for me, I'm excited to see what comes and excited to see what we do in the draft. Hoping that we make a splash. I doubt we will, and we don't really have the picks for it yet. But that's my hope.
I mean, so I guess that would be the question for you right now: is what are you looking for in the draft? Because they seem to be pretty content with our quarterback room, which means the 16th overall pick doesn't necessarily have to be where they pick.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, like, I could see us trading out, or trading down, maybe even trading out of the first if we can. Like I said, I know on the early show, I know it's random, but Carolina has too high seconds, but no first, right? Maybe we work some kind of, like I said, a splash. But I think I'm not sure. I think we're going to try to pick at 16. I think we'll take that pick. I think we need to focus on offensive line still. I'm thinking the safe play would be like Fontenot, or if I pronounce his name correct, if he's still available. I don't think Penix is going for us the first round if he's even there. I agree with you on the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, where they're picking, Penix could still be around, right? Because you're going to see receivers come off the board. You're going to see some offensive linemen come off the board. There's a couple of DNs that'll probably come off. So, I mean, he may still be available at 16. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like that's what they're trying to for a later round one, because they pick up Sam Howell.
Yeah.
So it's not like it would be one of the third round guys would be an upgrade from Howell, right? So everything they're doing kind of makes it look like they are not going quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's really starting to look like they're going to focus on defense, because everybody they've brought in defense are all on 1-year deals.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, all like tryouts in a sense.
It is. Yeah. They're like, yeah, come prove you're supposed to be on this team. It's one of the things that I kind of laughed about when people are like, oh, why didn't we bring Bobby Wagner back and all of this? And in a way, I get it, right? He was still he was the team leader in tackles. Some of that was because none of our team could tackle, but he also was one of the leading tacklers in the league yet again.
Yep.
That being said, he's kind of expensive, and you're looking at a defense that's been a bottom 5 defense over the last 5 years. So we had wasn't getting it done. Now you're looking at guys like Witherspoon and Woolen, and they're still young. They can be molded into what it is they need. Witherspoon was one of the other guys that could tackle, right? Like he wanted to tackle. Woolen, no. I don't know what happened, but when you're getting benched for not tackling, that's a real concern.
That is a concern, right? That's like you do need tacklers on the team to show them, almost like you need to go out there and lay down a hit, and here's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
So I could see that, going defense, but then I don't know. I just think I think our offensive line is still needs work. I mean, with Damian Lewis gone now, right? So
yeah, it's funny. I'm not as down. I'm not as down on our offensive line as a lot of people are, and only because of how injured it was last year, right? Because you're going to get Cross and you're going to get Lucas back, right? So, your tackle spots are fine. Do we need depth at tackle? Obviously, because as soon as they got hurt, like the drop off was insane.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, interior offensive line, I agree. It needs, at a minimum, it needs depth. But I mean, we could use, a good starting guard, or something like that. Like, so I'm with you there. Like, it does need help, but I don't think, even if they rolled it out today, I don't think it would be as bad as it was last year.
I got you. Yeah. Barring injuries, right? Like you said,
No, assuming they're healthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Assuming that.
I mean, because you could draft the entire board. If they get hurt, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, what do you think they're going to do at 16? Do you think we'll trade out, or who do you want? Who do you think should be available that you want?
So if you could get, I wouldn't mind them getting Penix if they could get him. I wouldn't mind that pick. I don't think they do. Honestly, this is still a Schneider GM position. And what have we watched him do over the last 10 plus years? He trades back. So I am fully prepared for them to trade back. They'll probably end up with a late 20s first round pick, and they'll pick up an extra, like maybe they'll pick up a second for next year and maybe a third this year kind of thing. And then they may very well trade back one more time and trade completely out of the first round. Because any of the guys that you're going to get from 16 on, say you're filling in your defensive line or offensive line, any of the guards, centers, guards, right, that you're going to get after 16, you can still get at 53, right? Because that level of player, it doesn't have a huge drop off between those spots.
Yeah.
Similar to interior defensive line. Now, DNs, you're kind of at the edge of where your best ones are at 16. So maybe you would stay there for that, for an edge rusher or something. But yeah, I mean, when you're talking about linemen, offense, defense, doesn't matter. If you're not getting a guy that's going to be in the top 10, you can pretty much get that same guy through the middle of the second round.
Yeah. So trade down.
Yeah.
Or trade out. Well, what would you take this? Cause like after coming, listening to Coast, and I took a look at that possibility of Philly and Seattle. And that trade would be a swap firsts, and we get 58, I think is one of their seconds, 58 for our third. So would you swap first, take a second from them, and give them a third? Go down 6 spots, right? What are they picking? 22nd, I think, and we're
something like that. And then you'd get
you get 22 and 58 instead of 16, and I don't know what our pick is in the third round at that point.
So I wouldn't hate that actually. Because like if you got their second at 58, like you can still get a high quality. You can still get a high quality lineman, offense or defense. You can still get a pretty impactful linebacker at 58. Honestly, you might look at a tight end at 58. Because
are you not a big believer in Fant?
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, you'd be looking at a depth guy.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
right. Because I mean, you're still gonna have dual tight end sets and stuff. So you're gonna be looking at kind of a depth guy, tight end 2, maybe tight end 3, possibly. Because even though Fant is good, he's been around the league a while. So you do have to plan for if he can't make it through a whole season.
That's true. Yeah, and we did get rid of our whole
core. Everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Like basically the head coach walked into the tight end room like, so I got this cool story for you guys. It's called You're All Fired.
Yeah. Screw you, screw you. You're cool. Screw you. Screw you. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean, it's yeah. I don't. I don't know. I could see a tight end only because yeah. Again, you just don't have a lot of depth there.
Mhm.
You know, I know you're not going safety. They have 6 safeties on the roster now. So you know, you don't really have to do that. Them getting moving on from Diggs, I was a little bit surprised on. It was he was expensive, sure,
Mhm.
but you didn't save a ton by getting rid of him.
But he hasn't resigned yet with anybody, right? I think he's still is he still
He,
available
he's
to kind of maybe come back on a cheaper deal?
there's no way you do it though, because you already have 6 safeties on the roster. Where where would
That's
you fit it, right?
right.
So I mean, I don't see him as a fit coming back, but I was surprised that they moved on from him just
Yeah.
because you didn't save a lot of money by doing it because his cap hit is still there. So like that one I didn't really get the upside for. Like
Well,
if you traded him, it made sense because you didn't
yeah.
have to pay him. Like his guaranteed money was gone, but his cap hit's still there. So
Yeah.
that's just part of that creative financing.
Yeah. Pretty much. Probably, you know, had to put money on the side for something else. And like you said, I mean, how much did we save? Do you know by chance? Like, or you know,
I
like
think we saved like
2 million?
4 million.
Yeah, 4 million. Yeah, that's not much. I mean, unless we were trying to scrap every dollar we could for, you know, Williams deal at the time. Right? Or I don't think we had signed Williams yet, right? When we let Diggs go, or
I think we had signed him.
okay.
It was right around there, but at the same time, like a couple days prior, they had let Jamal Adams go, which was not a shock, right?
No,
Like
that was not a
that
shot.
guy's been hurt
I'm
nonstop.
glad.
So yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that he goes in as a safety is hilarious to me because I mean, he's an outside linebacker. Like I
Mhm.
don't know who we're lying to when you see him in coverage and the way he gets torched in coverage.
Oh yeah.
He's a linebacker. Like let's just use him for what he is. Like it's fine. He's a great linebacker, but let's stop pretending he's a safety.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
So here's an interesting one for you. They had in let's see, he came to town. I'd call it an interview, I guess. But they brought Penny back.
Oh, really? Just to
Yeah,
interview him?
yeah, yeah. So they brought him back. You could pick him up for a league minimum. Obviously, he's familiar with the organization.
You know, if we have the money, I mean, well, it depends. How are you on Walker and what Chardonnay or I think it's how do you pronounce
Charbonnet,
it? Charbonnet,
yeah. So that's the thing
right?
is those two would be your starters. So he would be an additional piece.
For a league minimum, I'd give him a shot. I mean, he showed moments of like greatness of why we had him in the first place, but it's his health. I don't know. Has he? I haven't really paid attention to him since he's left. I mean, in a sense,
He
was
didn't
he
play.
healthy? He didn't play at all, so he hasn't played. So this could be kind of
So he's healthy. He's healthy. When we moved on from him, he went to Philly, and Philly didn't use him at all. In fact, quite a few of the games, I don't even think he dressed for. So,
yeah. I'd throw a league minimum at him.
it's the health thing that's the biggest concern for me, right?
Mhm.
Is we have a history of not having our starting running backs make it through the year.
Mhm.
So just to give you a horrendously bad stat,
Oh yeah.
2014 is the last year we had our starting running back not land on IR.
Wow.
Not great. Not great.
No. No.
So, so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we could bring him in,
No.
but I mean, he's been hurt every single year that he was here, and he doesn't get hurt last year. But you know, it's hard to get hurt if you don't play. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can get him for league minimum, right?
that's
Uh,
what's intriguing.
that's what's intriguing because the thing is we don't actually technically need him to start, so we don't need him to play. And if our you know if the two guys stay healthy, then
Well,
essentially he's not going to play anyway. And you know, so if we're limiting also the amount of games he's gonna
so
hit.
this is where I like him.
Yep.
Right? Is I wouldn't hate the move if they were bringing him in as your kick returner.
Ooh. Well, didn't we just bring somebody in specifically for that?
Well, yeah, but you need 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
right?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
need two return guys, right? Because the new kickoff alignment, they're going to be on the opposing 40.
that's true.
Their coverage team is at the 35, right? They're only 5 yards apart. So all of a sudden, your guys there are going to be relatively locked up. So you need some guys that have some speed,
Yeah.
but still have some size, because you're going to have to break through that line, but then still be fast enough, if you do, to be able to take it to the house and not get tracked down. We've seen Rashad Penny be
Yeah,
fast,
no, we have seen that. I mean, that
and
is
he's a shifty
intriguing.
runner. So, if he can get through that line, like, he could be a dynamic kick returner, and you're only using him
I
a
haven't
few
heard about
times a
that.
game. So all of a sudden his touches are way down. Injury
Yeah.
becomes less.
Yep.
Not going to be the high speed impacts.
Nope.
Because even when he's on that kickoff return team, he's not necessarily going to get the ball every time. So, I mean, I feel like that could be a scenario where he could be a benefit to the team.
I mean, you make a great argument for it, especially for a league minimum. I could totally see that. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not paying him more than a league minimum in any way, right? To me,
Well,
I
you
feel
can't.
like, yeah. So to me,
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay,
No, that's where the
that's a
injuries come in.
flyer. That is an interesting flyer. Like, I would probably take that flyer and see what
Well,
happens.
and then you still have him as that backup as a running back,
Yeah.
right? So if one of your guys gets hurt, he can fill in, in theory.
A little bit of a DJ Dallas, right? Yeah, in a sense.
Well, that's actually the position I would
Oh,
having him step into, is
yeah.
Dallas's spot, right? So he would be in for the kick return team, and then get 1 to 3 touches a game.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's the only way you can justify his injury history.
Oh yeah, and if he stays healthy for the whole season, then he can start. It's almost like even a comeback story here with him in that sense, right? You if you
Yep.
do well enough with us, maybe we keep you on. But I don't know what McDonald's philosophy is, right? And
That's the other question. It was actually one of the things I found really kind of strange when they were building the defense, is the fact that everything is a bunch of 1-year deals.
yeah,
It's like he came in, was like, our defense is terrible. You're all out of here. And then he was like, oh, we probably actually need some guys though. Like,
yeah. No, that's true. I'm just wondering, like, if he would focus on that, having that dual position in a sense, having that kind of player, like that role. I'm wondering if that would be something he's interested in, or if he is more like, I want a traditional, you're just going to be returning punts. I'm not going to have that capability of dual. That's what I'm just kind of wondering, how he stands with making up his team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can really do that, just because of your limitation on the roster.
That's true. If you can get, a 2-for-1 in a sense.
Well, I mean, you almost need to, because there are specialty positions, right? So, I mean, like, unless you had a Devin Hester, I don't think you can just burn a spot, right? Like, you need a guy that can fill in. Now, obviously, Devin Hester played receiver kind of, but, they used him in gadget plays mostly. But,
yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think you need a guy that can still be useful because of the limitation of, the roster size.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, let's take a flyer on it.
Yeah.
Call him up and,
Like, I could see it, because it could be cheap. It's a vet min. So what is that? Like $1.5 million, $2 million?
yeah, I think it's under $2 million.
What is the vet min
I
now?
thought it was like 900,000, but maybe not.
Well, I think that's maybe it is right at $1 million. Let's see. NFL veteran minimum. Just over $1 million.
Oh, just over $1 million, like 1.2 or something.
1.055, and then
Inflation.
let's see. That's if he's been at least 3.
He's got,
and then he's got more. So yeah, it's 1.2. 1.2.
Okay.
Which, I mean, again,
what do we have in space right now? Like 4?
The existing cap space, I think, is a little bit fungible. Let's see. We got Seahawks cap. Let's see. So this is, I actually don't have one that's current.
Okay.
The most current one is about a month ago, which had 40 mil. I don't believe that's still accurate.
No.
I would bet they're probably around 20 mil.
20.
That would be my guess, because you're going to have to allot about 7 for draft picks.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they probably have about 10 or less to play with. So adding a guy for 1.2 probably makes sense.
Yep. Give you like eight league minimum veterans to play with, if you really want to think of it that way, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that was part of some of these 1-year deals.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I mean, is there anybody else that you would think that you would want to spend your cap space on right now? Any other folks that you can see besides him?
No, I mean, because again, I'm more concerned about our defense. Like, I like our offense. As long as we aren't having Tyler Lockett, returning.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Lockett, he did have a tendency to fumble the ball on returns.
Yeah.
So the offense doesn't need a ton, right? The offense needs probably an extra tight end and some depth on the offensive line. Everything else, all the rest of my concerns are really on this defense. And, some of it is, it's all new guys, which, great, because what we had obviously wasn't working.
Yeah, but it'll take time for them to gel.
Exactly. And then what's his defensive philosophy? We saw the way that it worked with the Ravens, and it was great. But he had dudes.
Yeah, no, he did have a team to play with,
Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest concern, is the defense of this team. Now, the good thing is the bar has been really low. So becoming a middle of the road defense is a huge step forward, right? If you're the 15th, 16th ranked defense, that's huge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what were we like last year? Like 24, 25, something like that?
Yeah, it depended on when you looked at it during the season. We were as low as 30.
Yeah, we were.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it was not great.
No.
So yeah, I mean, what's that?
Bet the over on our games. We're gonna get scored on a lot.
Yeah, well, and I still think that's going to be true.
Yeah.
Right. Especially early in the season as these guys come together. Because the worst thing about the way the NFL operates today is you don't get real, you don't get real contact really until the season starts. Right. Sure. Because your starters aren't really playing in preseason anymore, especially with only having the 3 games, because you still have to evaluate all that talent. So your starters get a series in game 2, maybe. And then game 3, they play for maybe a quarter now. I like the way it used to be, where, you played like a series in the first game. And then really the second game, there really wasn't many starters. And then the third game, you had, probably 3 series and then 1 series after halftime. And then the fourth, you played a half, right? You played an entire half with your starters, and then probably the first series after halftime. Right. That was kind of the way it used to work. And now you basically don't have any of your starters playing. Some of the teams didn't start them at all. Right. Like, some of them didn't play in the preseason at all. And you saw it in a huge way as soon as it became the regular season. That first regular season game looked so much like a preseason game. It was sloppy. There was penalties everywhere. Offensive line play was horrendous. I get that there's a lot of positions that don't necessarily need the preseason games, but receiver timing and offensive line timing absolutely needs preseason reps and needs to be able to hit in practice. You need practice. That's why they call it practice. If you are 7-on-7 drilling all the time, I don't know how you expect your offensive line to get better.
Yeah. Well, my guess was right that they used to do that But then with like the big contracts and injuries now with these giant contracts out there are so, costly that, they're trying to protect their starters from injuries. But I think what happens too is you get them on the field. They're not, like you said, they're not used to the contact. They're not used to those reps. We're getting more injuries coming out of the first couple of games
Oh
because
yeah.
they're not, right. And I think that what was meant to solve for injuries is created more. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, all it
yeah,
did was it delayed it. Like, I would
yeah,
rather you get your injury in
yeah,
the first couple weeks of preseason work, where you were actually getting hurt on the practice field, and then
yeah,
you were back and ready for the game, like for week one, instead of you're getting hurt week one, week two, and
yep.
now you're out until week 8.
Yeah, no, exactly. It seems like NFL football really doesn't start to like week 5 now at that point where everybody realizes who's injured, who's coming back by when, and on all of that. It's like
Yeah.
you're right. The first game definitely seems more preseason.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
bad football.
yeah. Oh
Like, it
yeah.
was it was bad football.
Oh
It
yeah.
was yeah. Yeah, as a fan, you're just sitting there like, "Oh man, these guys needed some reps."
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. We saw a lot of that. So, but I'm still in, I mean, speaking like with the reps, I did want to ask you because I know throughout throughout other shows, on Coast to Coast, we've talked to about the quarterback room and Gino and Howell. I'm kind of high on Howell. I think he's
Okay.
been brought in here for a purpose. I think that they think if they give him the opportunity, they mold him right. I think he's here to take over Gino. That's why I'm not sure, like you were saying, like we might draft Penix. I mean, if he's there, he's there. But I don't think that, like you said, they're not looking for a quarterback. But I think because Gino's at the end of his contract, I don't think he's coming back after this year anyway, right? This is his last year with us, I think.
Is it? I thought he had one more.
Does he have one more? Because I thought he had, oh, maybe it was a 2 year.
He had a 3-year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so because I'm thinking Howell's going to ultimately take the charge over Gino by the end of this season.
Oh, you think he's going to do something
Yeah, I
that
think it's going to
Locke
be like
couldn't do?
A Russ Wilson, Josh Fields kind of situation where I think Gino's going to come in as the incumbent. He's
Okay.
going to start, and then I think by like week 10 or so, I think it's just going to be whether it's due to an injury or just play. I think ultimately Howell's going to get in there and he's going to perform, and I think kind of take over the reins.
Okay.
I talked to a lot of Washington fans, and they were really, I usually tend to like listen to the fans who, of that team, and a lot of them are very upset that we fleeced Howell. Like, feel like they lost something big to them, and so
There
maybe
is that. There is a
something.
contingent of Washington fans that are real mad about it.
Yeah. So that tells me something, right? If the local fans are not happy that the quarter, not like when we were like, okay, Russ, go ahead, go, we'll figure it out without you. It's almost, even though it's a different, caliber of quarterback, it's still that concept of, we were okay. There's folks out there who are a little, hurt by this and feel like we got a very good steal. And so I kind of tend to put some weight on that. I
No,
really wanted to find out what your thought though of that process was. Like, are you a Howell believer at all, or do you think Howell's just here? And
no, I think Howell, to me, was they couldn't afford to keep Locke, right?
sure,
So you knew he was moving on, and you could pick up Howell for a draft pick, which they had, right?
sure,
And he's free. He's still on his rookie deal. So all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we can get a quality backup. We can get something that we basically had in Drew Lock. The system's changing anyway, so his familiarity with the room doesn't matter, right? It's not like it was more Pete Carroll where, then it makes sense to keep Locke because he's familiar with the way everything moves and all of that. All of that's out the window now. So then you look at, okay, Drew Lock did enough during this last season to make some money as a backup. Seahawks didn't have the cap space for it, so had to move on. And then you go get Howell, and I forget what they gave him. It was basically a second rounder and a fourth, I think.
yeah,
Something like that. And then, but he's on a rookie contract, so he's making what, $600,000-$700,000. That's way better than 8
Oh yeah.
mil, whatever.
Oh, yeah. I could see the financial reasoning behind it.
But I mean, do I think he's a huge upgrade from Locke? Not really. I mean, there's elements of his game I like better. He's a little more athletic, obviously, but it's not like he produced anything different than Locke did. Because Locke was a starter before, right? When he was in Denver.
True.
Didn't produce anything crazy, but he also wasn't terrible.
True.
You looked at Sam Howell, you know, he didn't do anything great, but he wasn't horrible. Like there's some similarities there. Do I think the upside of Howell is there? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely potential upside. If Geno gets hurt or plays horribly, do I think he gets a start? Of course. Why not? Because Geno also doesn't have Pete Carroll in his corner, right?
True.
So he's going to have to actually, you know, not to say he didn't before. Let me rephrase that. I didn't mean it to sound like, oh, he didn't actually earn his spot. He definitely did. He definitely did. But that being said, he doesn't have the coach that gave him that spot in his corner anymore.
Yeah, the opportunity.
Exactly.
He said, I'll take you after five games in 10 years and I'll let you start. Right. And he, you know, that opportunity, somebody who believed in him that much. So I agree. I understand that. Yeah. McDonald's like, okay, you're a product of Pete though, still in a sense. So
exactly.
I am going to judge you differently.
Not just, yeah, that's exactly right. Is I'm going to judge you differently. So I might actually lean on you harder than I would had I brought you in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm really excited to see kind of what this iteration of the team becomes, because we don't really know what McDonald is going to bring, right? It's his first time as a head coach. Who knows? Yeah. You know, when you look at our staff, there's a lot of first timers coming into this. So it's his first time as a head coach. You know, our offensive coordinator, it's his first time in the NFL. I think we have 3 or 4 coaches that it's their first time in the NFL at the position they're going to be filling.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some very real, you know, growing pains, I think.
I think so too. But, you know, I mean, how would you grade our offseason acquisition for coaching in a sense, right?
Oh, I like it. I like what we did.
Better than most of the other teams who out there go out and replace head coaching and do a whole new set of succession. Yeah.
So it's funny. This is one that have been asked before. And it's interesting because people are so high on, you need to hire an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And in a way I get it, right? Because you have continuity between your quarterback and your offensive coordinator in that position, right? And if he's your head coach, it means you're not going to have transition of offensive coordinator because it's the same guy, right? So I get the argument. That being said, Pete Carroll was a defensive guy, right? We still had a good offense. And it didn't matter who we brought in, right? Like they followed some philosophy guidelines that Pete had for his team. And we had pretty consistent offense. And we have guys, right? I mean, when you look at Lockett and DK and JSN and Bobo, like you got weapons, right? Noah Fant is a weapon at tight end. Obviously, our running back room is great. So I liked that they brought in a defensive coach, because the one thing we didn't have was a good defense. So I liked bringing that in, bringing in the Huskies offensive coordinator. I liked, I mean, when you looked at what they were able to do at the college ranks, it was a dynamic offense.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he was brought in because I know you were saying like Penix is a possibility. Do you think he was brought in specifically to either aid Penix, or I know I'm thinking like he's tight end coach, right? Like not a tight end coach, but he likes tight ends, and to really like maybe step up and make Fant more of a the focal point of, you know, receiving. Because I mean, now that we're used to passing over the middle again, you know, now that we don't have Russ. And Fant's supposed to be, because I'm hoping for, I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking my brain's like super Seahawk fan. I want 1,000-yard season out of Fant, right? And I feel like that's a possibility.
I do think you can get it, and I think that is part of it. It is a it is a coach that likes the tight end. And when you look at the teams that have the best success in the league, especially as of late, they have a dominant tight end. Now, can Fant be that guy? Sure, as long as you scheme him open, right? So, I mean, yeah, I like him for that. Do I think when they brought him in, they had Penix in mind? I don't know if the goal was to get Penix. I wouldn't go that far. But when you look at the draft board and where he's slated to go and where their pick is, it's one of those, if it works out, that's why at the beginning I was like, if he's there, I think you almost do take him.
Yeah, because of
best player available kind of thing.
Yep.
If he's not, I don't think it matters, right? Like, I think that's one of those where you're not going to hear of a Hawks trade until it's like, probably until Penix is off the board. I bet you if Penix jumps off the board, I bet you hear about a trade right away. If Penix is still on the board, I bet it's just before their pick is supposed to be called. Like, Seattle, you're on the clock. And then all of a sudden it's like, dun-dun-dun, and the trade comes in. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think as soon as Penix jumps off the board, which could be before 16, then all of a sudden I bet that trade comes through. But I don't think he was hired specifically to get Penix in. I think it would just be like, oh, happy accident. Like if it, did work out.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm thinking too, like, what do I wanted to ask you too, like about Lockett. Essentially, I think like this would be his last year with us. I think after this year, he's most likely a free agent, right?
Is he, or does he have one more after this?
I think the way the contract was redone.
That's right. He just reworked it.
Yeah, he reworked it.
That's right.
I think he even took less money. And
he did. Yeah. And it's got like voidable years, I think. That's right.
So, I mean, it's almost like a transition on from him. So I was kind of wondering what your thought too was, like, with this new coaching staff, do you think he has a down year this year, on a way out the door in a sense, or, not being a focal anymore?
I wouldn't think so. Because he is your most sure-handed guy on the team. So the thing is as much as I like DK, he does drop the easy ball.
True.
Like he'll make the spectacular catch and the contested catch, but if it hits him square in the numbers, I don't always feel great that it's actually going to get caught.
Yeah.
And it's not an indictment on him in any way. It's just, we've watched it happen.
Yep.
So, but I knew they weren't going to move on from Lockett this year because the cap hit would have been too high anyway. They wouldn't have saved enough to make it worth it. The one I was curious about was whether or not they were going to trade DK, because you could probably get a 1 and a 2 or a 1 and a 3 with maybe an escalator or something.
That could be a draft day surprise, right?
What's that?
That could still be a draft day surprise, or
probably not, because of the other guys that have already kind of fallen in places. And, then you're looking at the top 3 guys that are as wide receivers coming off the board. Because you got Harrison, you got Neighbors, you got a Dunze.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those guys are going to go where the need already is. So it would have probably been more of a.
Should have did it earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like like the play that like the Texans would have made instead of grabbing
Diggs. Yeah.
Yes, Diggs. So that's kind of more of the situation I was looking at. Is okay, you could probably get a couple of good draft picks for DK, and you're getting into where DK is becoming real expensive. So you can free up cap space because you don't have to worry about eating the contract. They'll gladly pay his contract. And then you'll get some draft picks, free up some cap space. You still have dynamic receivers. So I did think that there could have been a play for DK on some other rosters, but I didn't hear of any rumors of even phone calls being brought in.
I wonder too, like, because I'm interested to see how DK is going to play out anyway. Having McDonald now, he's such an emotional person, DK. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how that's going to play out, right? You know, those sideline outbursts and stuff that he does, you know, here
It's
and
actually
there.
why I thought there was a chance.
Yeah.
Be-
Or maybe why nobody wanted to make a move.
Well, so here's the thing. Like if Diggs can land a job,
That's true.
like he's a
Third
known
time's a charm, right?
like he's a known problem to the organization. You're talking about DK, who is too emotional during a game. Those are wildly different things, because one is a cancer in the room and the other one is like, dude, you're hurting us in this game, like calm down.
Yeah.
Right. But like
Killing us with your penalties, man.
yeah, you're killing us with penalties, but there's not a problem with the organization. There's not a problem with other players. Like everybody loves DK, right?
Yeah,
like people like him as a human. Whereas Diggs, they're just like, yeah, you know what? We're gonna eat 30 mil if you can just go away.
I get, it's player performance. You know,
Yeah.
it's really DK's play. It's not his, you know, I mean, it's his performance. It's not his personality. Where Diggs is like, your performance is great, but your personality just blows.
Is atrocious. Yeah. And when you look at DK, it's like your personality is great, and even your performance is good. Like it's not like he doesn't perform on the field. I mean, when he has opportunities, like he puts up yards, and he likes to block. Like he wants to go hit people. Love that out of a receiver. The problem is he can't shut it off when the whistle blows.
Yeah, exactly.
And that gets us. And they're drive killers, because that's a 15-yarder. So, you know, that's always been the issue.
It's always 15-yarders. That he's,
exactly.
I mean, it's loaded with them. It's like you're not even 5 yards. It's 15, dude. You know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is they're always drive killers. Like one of the most egregious ones from last year. I was so frustrated when I watched it, because the play was over. There was no reason for it, and we were playing the Bengals.
Yep.
And plays over, whistle blown, throws the guy to the ground.
Yep.
Just walks up and
like, yeah.
And you're just like, dude, that's a 15-yarder every time. Now we're talking 3rd and 25. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. and a lot of them came at like times where we need this drive. You know, it wasn't like you're pulling this stuff where we're ahead by 30 and, you know, it's the 4th quarter and there's only 5 minutes left in the game, right? You're pulling this stuff where it's like we're either trying to make a comeback here or, you know, we're trying to maintain a very small lead. Like,
it's and that was the case. That was a case against the Bengals. We were the better team, and that ultimately was a drive killer in a spot where we were trying to win.
Yep.
And it, you know, more or less ended the game.
Yep.
I mean, it didn't, but you know, it's tough to overcome, you know, 2nd or 3rd in a mile. Like there's not a lot in a playbook for it.
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting there at, you know, 2nd and 25 or 3rd and 25, you may have a card that's, you know, yay big. There's 2 things on there that have enough yardage to clear that. Unless you're just like, okay, catch this ball and then break 4 tackles so you can get the other 15 yards. It's like, yeah, okay. Like that's not, and you know, it's not like the defense is surprised.
Yeah.
Their safeties and corners are standing back where you got to go, and they're going to collapse on wherever the ball goes. So, I mean, it's, those types of penalties are extraordinarily frustrating. And as much as I like what he brings, it is why I thought there was a real chance that he could be traded.
Yeah.
Because, you know, high cap, you know, hit, and, you know, it's the in-between plays during the game that, you know, could have potentially got there, but there's no way another team wouldn't have taken him.
Yeah. Should have sent him to Denver for a couple of 1st rounders.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, well, when you look at it, it's like, okay, when it's kind of like the second girlfriend saying, oh, I can change him. Right. I know he's a problem. I see the red flags, but it's fine. I can make it work. Right. That was the Bills for Diggs.
Yeah.
Right. And there's the honeymoon period. So the first year, 2, solid. Right. But then you watch Diggs go right back into what he is.
Yep.
Right. And so ultimately, I think someone would have taken DK. They would have got it a little bit under control for the first year. But if you look at DK's penalties since he got here, he's gotten more of them every single year.
Yeah.
So it's not like the problem's getting better as he's
matured
as a player.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's progressively getting worse. That's true. Well, some would say maybe, with like the Diggs thing I was going to say with Houston, it was funny they reworked his contract. So he's only there for 1 year, probably because of that situation, right? Like he could become a cancer. And I'm sure that's probably why they're like, okay,
yep.
we're gonna give you a 1 year tryout. I mean, I don't think anybody would want to do that with DK. So,
No. Whoever's taking DK wants it.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
and it would be similar to Diggs' second contract.
Yeah.
Bills wanted him, right? Like there was no, oh, let's do a 1 year deal or whatever. Like there was none of that. It was, oh yeah, it didn't work there, but I think we can make it work with you.
Yep.
Right. So it's always that first stop after your initial, right? That's the one that's still really, really in on you. You're like, okay, yeah, you know what? It's their organization. They were the problem, whatever, right? And then if you do it again, then everybody sees, oh, I mean, you might be the problem. It's like your friend that goes through a lot of girlfriends, and they're like, oh, they're all crazy. It's like, there's one common denominator here.
The common denominator
I think it might be you, dude. Like,
totally get that. Yeah, I was going to say too, because I know you were talking about, and you made that mention, all of these, players that we picked up on 1 year deals.
Yeah.
Is there one player in particular that like you're kind of interested in, that you're like, ooh, I like that signing even for 1 year deal. I'm interested to see where that plays out. Or was there anything of significance to you that caught your attention? Or
there's not really one. Like I want to see how, because there's so many of them, I want to see how this Land of Misfit Toys gels.
Yeah.
Right? Because now we've just kind of robbed people from all over the place. I don't know how any of them are going to play together. I don't think there's one that I've looked at and I'm like, there we go. Like the Leonard Williams things, the only reason I knew that was going to come together is we gave up a second round for him.
Yeah. No,
you don't do that for a 1 year rental. Like you just don't. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because of everybody that's come in on 1 year deals. I'm sort of intently looking at all of them because I don't know how any of them are going to work. We have a new DC. We have a new idea of defense. And then you have a whole bunch of 1 year guys. It's like, man, I really don't know what to expect out of that.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even know what platform we're going to play out of. Are we going to run a 3-4 or 4-3? I don't know.
Ooh. Yeah, we haven't really been cued in yet. We won't know that for a little while, but
no, there's so many questions because even when you're looking at the linebackers, it's like, okay, well, I mean, I kind of like a couple of the guys depending on what we run. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Do you have like a favorite? Do you have a top are you happy with our off season in general with all the acquisitions we made? I mean, what do you think was our best one that we did overall? Like, what was the best acquisition that we had this season?
Probably getting the Williams contract done because we gave up a lot to get him. And, was he necessarily effective last year? Not really, but I mean, our team was, by the time he came in, the team had so many other problems. No one player was going to fix anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But getting that deal done with what they gave up to go get him, that was probably the one where I was like, okay, like that had to happen.
Yeah.
That's probably the one that stands out for me.
What do you think was our worst move of the offseason? I mean, I know you were talking about Diggs earlier, and, we talked about Bobby Wagner and stuff.
So honestly, for me, it was still Wags.
You think so?
And the main reason is because it's the guy will always make a tackle. And on a team that really struggled to tackle people, getting rid of your leading tackler was tough to watch. Yeah. Especially because it's not like he's extraordinarily expensive, right? Like he's going to cost you $8 million. That's not terrible for a league leading tackler. Is he a liability in coverage? Sure. So don't put him in coverage. Sure. Right. Put him in a scenario where, if you see a specific alignment, throw a nickel corner out there. Like this isn't rocket science. Like the X's and O's aren't that different from over the years. So, I mean, there are ways if you have a linebacker that's not great in coverage that you can hide him in that coverage, like throw him in a bubble zone of sorts. Like there's ways you can help that player out. Is he fast enough to track a guy in man coverage anymore? No. So run a man coverage hybrid, right? Like have everybody in man and have two linebackers in center bubbles and set up a, either a nickel corner or an extra free safety that can bracket in a way so that everybody else can be in man and you have the ability to move a soft zone through the middle to keep with a guy. Like there's ways to do it. But that was probably the one I didn't like, and only because we had so many tackling deficiencies.
No, exactly. Like we can't tackle, and you get rid of the only person who can, right? Like totally
Right?
get that, right?
So, I mean, that was the thing with Diggs too, right?
Yeah.
Diggs would tackle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, like I don't know. So there's a couple of those that I didn't necessarily love.
Mm-hmm. I got you. No, that makes sense. It was hard to see some of these folks go, but like I said, I'm excited for a new team. I think, I mean, so we'll get to what are your thoughts on? I know we talked a little bit on Coast to Coast too, like about the McDonald making all the changes, taking the pictures down, and kind of like, hey, this is my new era.
This is one of the stories that's just a non-story. Like I don't know why people are losing their minds. It's the dumbest thing to lose your mind about.
Yeah,
right. Probably the weirdest complaint, I guess, that I heard about it was, oh, they're trying to erase our history. It's like, what are you talking about? You're getting rid of murals in the room. There's no way that Pete Carroll had a bunch of Mike Holmgren stuff hanging around when he took over, right? He cleaned house. He changed it to whatever his vision is, right? He has all new players. Ain't nobody in that building that was on that Super Bowl team. Right. So let them write their future. You're not going to recreate the Legion of Boom.
Yeah. No.
Right. And like I said on Coast to Coast, if you get remarried, you had good memories with your ex-wife, right? I'm sure of it. You don't have pictures of those memories all over your house for your new wife. I can guarantee that's not a thing.
No, unless you're in an open relationship or something.
Unless you're trying to get divorced again. Yeah. That's really the only way I see that working out. So, yeah, I mean, this is such a non-story. Of course, he's trying to reset it. He's trying to give his new players room to create their own story.
Yeah.
Like you want to bring in that new era. You want your new players to be part of your new era. You don't want them under the shadow of an era that was before this team.
Yeah.
Like none of the outrage for it makes sense. They didn't throw away the Lombardi. They didn't get rid of people's pictures around the stadium, right? Like there's still, like if you go up in the boxes, there's still going to be pictures of Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman and the rest of the Legion of Boom, Cam Chancellor, all those guys. It's not like they destroyed every memory that they ever created. They just got it out of their meeting rooms and down the hallways that the players are in the VMAC. Yeah, that's their space. They're supposed to be creating their new team.
Yeah, new pictures. Their pictures go up on the wall, right?
Exactly. That's the idea. Like you're supposed to be able to create things with the players you have to put their murals on the wall.
Yeah.
Like let these new kids go do something. Not live under the shadow of the era that was before you. Because it's not like we won that Super Bowl last year or the year before. It's been a decade.
Yeah, it has been. What, 20, was it 14 or 15?
14. So it was 14 because it was the 13th season.
That's
and then the 14th season is when we lost to the Pats. Technically the 15, right? Beginning of 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was the 13. So technically 11 years. But the Super Bowl was in 14, so it's a decade,
I got you.
But, semantics at that point. But yeah, I mean, in either scenario, 10, 11 years, depending on how it is you want to count it. And so, yeah, like it's not recent memory, right? Like it's been a decade. So let these guys move on. Let them build their new culture. Let the new players be part of the new culture they're building. Like that's the idea. So I think it's pretty crazy that people are losing their minds. And I think more of it, they're just losing their minds because it's a slow time in the football season. They don't have enough to focus on.
Have drama about no news is news today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because this time next week, we're going to know who our first round draft pick is.
Yes. Hopefully if we're picking in the first round, but it's going to be exciting.
Yep. No, I'm excited for it. Like I am ready for the draft. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you are here in the Seattle area watching, my goal is to catch it at the Queen Anne Bar Hall. And so supposedly some of the Seahawks are going to be there. The Seahawks dance team is going to be there. So should be fun. There are no reservations from what I understand. It'll be first come, first serve. So if I am going to make that happen, I'll probably be there for a while.
Yep.
Beer in hand. I mean, it's a beer hall. So, I'm going to partake. So yeah. But if you are in the area, be sure to stop by, say hi. But yeah. No, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. I might have to check out this. Okay, I'm gonna have to check this out. I might.
Yeah, I'll send you the details. I'm still working out exactly how it is I'm going to go about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, beer and football, and I mean, yeah,
next Hawks to talk to, right?
Right? Like it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to be at the draft, it seemed like the best next step.
I want to do shots with Richard Sherman.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably won't be there.
No, I know. No, but that'll be exciting. I'm interested. Like I said, I'm really interested to see what we do with this draft. I almost wish we were having the draft. We were able to do another draft like we had like last year, like having a lot more picks and just I think that's where I get concerned because what do we only have? We have the first. Do we have only 1/3 or 2?
I think we just have the one. Yeah, right? We don't have tons of draft picks.
Like first, third, fourth, all the way through, or are we missing anything down in the lower areas too?
I thought we were missing. I thought one of the rounds we had 2, and we were missing 1 and 1 based on some trades.
Oh yeah, the 4 and the 6 for was Howell's this draft, or was Howell like parsed out half this, half that?
That I don't remember offhand. I'd have to look. Yeah, that not quite sure. Sherman's front yard. Yeah, no, that I'll have to look because I don't remember. But which is also why I think they could potentially trade back, if not once, maybe a couple of times to kind of bolster what it is they can bring in, especially if they aren't necessarily in love with who's left on the board at that 16th pick.
Got you.
Especially if you think the guy that you like, you could get later.
I got you. Yeah.
So like, for instance, if they were going with the Eagles, right? And they went back to 22, if the guy that they wanted is slated for, 22 to 27, be like, okay, well, I can drop back. I can still get the guy I want. And now I can add a second or a third or, whatever it is they get. So, cause then you get some of those later picks to, kind of play around with. But
do you think, and this is just weird with the draft, is there any way we would or possibly could trade up? I mean, we're talking about trading down, picking at 16, but do we see a need where it's like, ooh, maybe we can trade up?
I don't see
have enough capital.
I guess this is a good one to wrap up on. I don't see a scenario where Schneider does that because I haven't seen Schneider do that ever.
Yeah, I know. Breaking tradition. That'd be a total break in tradition.
That would be a wild break. I mean, he doesn't hardly use a first round pick. So for him to trade up would be unprecedented. I don't know if there's anybody in this draft that would make him do it.
Got you.
Because if you're not going after a quarterback anyway, I don't think there's anyone else you need to go get. So, but yeah.
Just curious.
Awesome. Well, thanks for everybody tuning in to the first episode of season 3 of Hawk Talk. Rob, again, thanks for coming in, man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I will definitely,
yeah,
no, absolutely. And I'll definitely send you the info for Queen Anne, because I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, send it to me.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you are watching here, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay for the next hour of your scheduled programming. Other than that, enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Bye, everybody.